Prime Minister Modi's final stop in Europe whirlwind. First world leader hosted by Macron after re-election. Defense, trade and Ukraine war on agenda. Big boost to Indo-French ties. France fighters and friendship. Bonjour Modi and Macron.
And we've got a big Rafale news break coming up here on India Today. Just hours before Prime Minister Modi is to land in Paris, the last stop in his Europe whirlwind tour. I'm Shiv Aroor. This is 5 Live and these are the headlines. MNS Chief Raj Thackeray pumps up the volume on Maharashtra loudspeaker debate, reiterates his Hanuman Chalisa call to tackle azan and mosques. Sena hits back, says Hindus could hit the streets. Rana couple granted bail in Chalisa sedition case, but trouble far from over. BMC team reaches their residence over illegal construction issues. Notice, are bulldozers going to bring their house down? Jodhpur in Rajasthan remains tense after Eid clash. Rajasthan government allegedly ignored intelligence alert on the 2nd of May about possible unrest. BJP guns for Chief Minister Gehlot. Hyderabad sinks after a few hours of rain today. Streets waterlogged. Residents use boats to come out of their houses. Shameful scenes in one of India's most progressive cities. Reserve Bank hikes repo rate by 40 basis points to 4.4%. Loan EMIs set to go up for borrowers. Sensex down by more than 1,000 points. In just a few hours from now, Prime Minister Modi will be arriving in the French capital, Paris, where he will be meeting with his old friend, the re-elected French President, Emmanuel Macron. Paris will be the final stop of the Prime Minister's 3-day Europe tour. He will be arriving from Copenhagen, where, as you can see, the Prime Minister just attended the Indo-Nordic summit. It's been a very, very high-profile visit so far. He's met with the Danish royalty. He's met with the Norwegian Prime Minister. He's met on 2 occasions with thousands of Indian diaspora, and it has truly been an electrified visit. Very, very high-profile, with every single stop offering some headline or the other. In just 3 hours from now, however, will be the final show-stopping visit when the Prime Minister takes off from Copenhagen and lands in Paris, where he will be meeting with his old friend Emmanuel Macron. These are, of course, pictures from their earlier visit and their earlier meeting. This time, he will be the first world leader to meet the newly re-elected Emmanuel Macron in the flesh. The first leader happens to be Prime Minister Modi. There's a great deal of diplomacy. There's a great deal of convergence over what's happening in Ukraine. There's a great deal of Indo-Pacific security, but there's also a great deal of defense cooperation. Here's a report on where things stand. In a few hours from now, the newly re-elected French president will conduct his first in-the-flesh meeting with a world leader. And that leader is Emmanuel Macron's friend, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Modi's arrival in Paris will mark a lightning-quick showstopper to a whirlwind Europe tour. But the air of Paris is thick with substance for one of India's most important relationships in the continent. At the Champs-Élysées, the 2 leaders will talk extensively about the Ukraine war, with Modi already making clear during this visit India's clear stand.
यूक्रेन के संकट के आरंभ से ही हमने तुरंत युद्ध विराम का आह्वान किया और इस बात पर जोर दिया था कि विवाद को सुलझाने के लिए बातचीत ही एकमात्र उपाय है।
But beyond the deep diplomatic engagement, there's plenty of the tangible on the Indo-French table. The Indian Air Force, remember, has received 35 of 36 French-built Rafale jets and has been operating them extensively from 2 bases in India's north and east. France is now pushing hard for India to sign on for even more Rafale fighters, including a made-in-India version. With the Indian Air Force in the market for 114 new multi-role fighter aircraft and the Indian Navy hunting for 57 new-generation carrier-based fighters, Macron's France believes it is in the best possible position to win both deals, considering the Rafale is already operational in Indian service. Apart from fully built military aircraft, one of the most crucial and substantive Indo-French projects in the offing is a partnership to build a powerful new jet engine to power India's future combat aircraft. The Indian Ministry of Defence is said to have urged its teams to tie up all loose ends and get this project going as quickly as possible. However, things are less hopeful on the submarine side of things, with France, maker of India's Scorpion-class submarines, pulling out of India's projected Project 75I submarine building program, which envisages local construction of 6 new generation submarines. Ties between India and France go way beyond military trade and cooperation. But as with India's major relationships, defense cooperation is a major sweetener and enabler of bigger things. While Modi's brief stopover in Paris today isn't long enough for deal-making, it is visits like these that clear the proverbial decks for the big deals. Whether those deals happen, especially with France going up against contenders from a powerful United States, remains to be seen. With Anjana Om Kashyap in Paris, Bureau Report, India Today. And I want to take you all to beautiful Paris, where India Today's Anjana is standing by. Bonjour, Anjana. Beautiful city that you're in right now. The final stop for the Indian Prime Minister. He's going to be there all too briefly. But, you know, what an electric visit it's been so far. And even these few hours in Paris are going to be very, very meaningful from everything we're hearing. What are you hearing from there?
Absolutely, Shiv. Bonjour. And we're right in front of Elysee right now. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to arrive here somewhere around Indian time, 9:45, after which he's going to be meeting Emmanuel Macron. As you said in your report, Shiv, this is the showstopper moment. Because it started with Berlin, it started with President Olaf Scholz, but he has a very, very strong rapport with Emmanuel Macron, the president. Re-elected 10 days ago, Prime Minister says he personally wants to congratulate him, but at the same time, the reference friend Emmanuel Macron. I think it's almost a name, an added name that Prime Minister Modi and Emmanuel Macron refer to each other as. But you were talking about the defense deals. Now, in the period 2017 to 21, apart from Russia, India was the second country. India was buying arms in terms of arms deal. France was the second country from which we were buying arms. So the entire significance of this bilateral, I think, will be around defense deals. Personal congratulations, the chemistry. There's going to be a grand walking into the courtyard, and it is expected that the Indian media might be allowed to go into the courtyard when they meet. But apart from the chemistry that we see between these two leaders, this beautiful city is all, the security measures taken around Elysee, Shiv, are quite immense. On the other side also, we were not allowed to shoot. They're even restricting media to quite an extent. Let's see how it goes. But interestingly, this is actually the showstopper moment, the beautiful city setting of Paris, and Prime Minister Modi and President Emmanuel Macron will be having an interesting welcoming, and after that the bilateral. Yeah.
I hope you get a few more hours than Modi does in that wonderful, wonderful city. Anjana, we'll keep coming back to you. Everything's set at the Elysee Palace for the Prime Minister's arrival. It's going to be very meaningful. I'm wondering whether Macron and Modi are going to do their usual jappi like they did last time. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks, Anjana. Thanks very much for that. We've got some breaking news coming in now. Okay, this is a big news break that we're getting in from the French media now. France is all set to offer the Indian Navy as many as 4 upgraded naval Rafale jets. They've been upgraded to the latest standard, and we hear that France is planning to offer 4 upgraded Rafale jets to the Indian Navy for the new INS Vikrant aircraft carrier that gets commissioned next year. We're hearing that this is a French move intended to give France an advantage over the US, which is offering a competing aircraft called the F-18 Super Hornet. The overall requirement of fighter jets in India right now is 114 for the Air Force and 57 for the Indian Navy. And France, having already supplied 36 Rafale fighters to the Indian Air Force, is now likely to make this new move of offering the Indian Navy an early delivery of upgraded Rafale jets for its new aircraft carrier that gets commissioned next year as some kind of an advantage, a placeholder against the Americans, who are also competing for these huge contracts. Gaurav Sawant, our senior executive editor who's watching these deals very, very closely, is live with me for more on this breaking story. Gaurav, what are you hearing? Hugely lucrative defense contracts on the table. France, which has already supplied Rafales, is hoping that India chooses to buy, as many as 200 more Rafales split between the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy. And they've made this very clever move. They're trying to upgrade some Rafales and quickly push them to the Indian Navy as a kind of sweetener. Take these jets right now so you know what they're all about, and then you won't have a choice but to buy more of them when the decision has to happen. Gaurav.
Shiv, France wants to score a lead. So far, the Super Hornets, FA-18s and the French Marine Rafales, they are frontrunners for the Indian Navy. The Indian Navy requires about 57 of these aircraft to operate off the INS Vikrant. The advantage that the French feel they have is that the Rafale Marines, they can operate off the Vikrant. They can use the elevators off the Vikrant. As far as the Rafales are concerned, Indian Air Force is already flying the Rafale, so that's an advantage that the IAF has. Of course, 4 of these aircraft are being upgraded. 26 is what the French are looking at initially in case Indian Navy approves. But the Americans are also not giving up, because the Americans are sending the FA-18 Super Hornets to the Indian Navy to operate off Goa, for Indian Navy to test the FA-18s very extensively. The French want to do the same. So they've upgraded them. The French have upgraded the Rafale Marines to operate the Meteors air-to-air missiles. They're also bringing in advanced avionics and electronics and other systems on board these aircraft. The French are very hopeful. It remains to be seen what the Indian Navy ultimately approves.
Gaurav, thanks very much for getting us the latest on that piece of breaking news. We'll keep tracking that story. Big news break, the possibility that France may be offering early delivery of some upgraded used Rafale jets as a kind of enticement for the Indian Navy as part of a much larger deal. We'll get you confirmation from the ground in a short while from now. But remember, the Prime Minister will be arriving in a few hours from now in Paris from Copenhagen, where he has just attended the second Indo-Nordic summit, where he met with the heads of state, prime ministers of all of those countries. He started in Denmark, where he held bilateral talks also with Sweden, Iceland, Norway's Prime Minister. Modi also took part in the Indo-Nordic summit. The Ministry of External Affairs said that Prime Minister Modi discussed potential for deepening engagement in areas like blue economy, renewable energy, infrastructure investment and others. All of these countries part of India's new Arctic policy. After Prime Minister Modi's successful visits to Germany and Denmark, like we said, the final leg is coming up, and it is in Paris. France is India's second biggest defense partner after Russia. The two leaders will also discuss the procurement of Rafale marine jets. This will be Prime Minister Modi's first meeting with President Emmanuel Macron after the latter was re-elected in the French national elections recently.
Well, I think India and Iceland have a lot of opportunities, and not least when it comes to the issues of climate cooperation, when it comes to geothermal energy, where we already have a cooperation which we should deepen and expand. We have possibilities in deepening the cooperation when it comes to carbon binding. We have already also a cooperation when it comes to the fisheries sector, where we can do more when it comes to innovation. And there both India and Iceland can share with each other knowledge and capacities really to produce added value out of our fish. Then we also talked about other issues like culture, gender equality, and other areas where we actually have a lot of knowledge to share and can deepen our very good relation.
For those who are probably expecting the Prime Minister to have a third big Desi night in Paris, the bad news is there is not going to be a big arena-like engagement with the Indian diaspora in France, and that's probably because the Prime Minister has held two big dhamaka milans with Indians in both Berlin as well as Copenhagen. In the presence of the Danish Prime Minister yesterday, the Prime Minister of India extolled India's achievements, many of those moments adding to the viral nature of the many defining images coming out during this three-day whirlwind tour of Europe. Let's quickly refresh your minds in case you missed the best of what happened last night. And remember, Prime Minister Modi lands in Europe very shortly.
साथियों, दुनिया भर में फैले भारतीय डायस्पोरा को अगर मिला लिया जाए तो उनकी संख्या कई देशों की आबादी से अधिक होगी। उनका पहनावा, खान-पान भले ही अलग-अलग हो, लेकिन हमारी सोशल हार्मनी, वननेस और को एग्जिस्टेंस की जो वैल्यूज सभी भारतीयों में एक समान है और यही हमारी ताकत है। और जिनकी रूट्स किसी भी तरह मां भारती से जुड़ी हैं, वे स्वाभाविक तरह से लोकतंत्र और रूल ऑफ लॉ के प्रति सम्मान रखते ही हैं। एक भारतीय दुनिया में कहीं भी जाए, वो अपनी कर्मभूमि के लिए, उस देश के लिए पूरी ईमानदारी से कंट्रीब्यूट करता है। जब मैंने डिजिटल इंडिया की बात की थी, तो कुछ लोग कई तरह के सवाल उठाते थे। हिंदुस्तान में डिजिटल 5-6 साल पहले हम पर कैपिटा डेटा कंजम्पशन के मामले में दुनिया के सबसे पिछड़े देशों में से एक थे। ये मैं बहुत दूर की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, 5-6 साल पहले। लेकिन आज स्थिति एकदम से बदल गई है। अनेक बड़े देश मिलकर जितना पर कैपिटा मोबाइल डेटा कंज्यूम करते हैं, उससे ज्यादा हम भारत में करते हैं। भारतीयता, सबका साथ, सबका और सबका, अब देखिए घर घर बात पहुंच चुकी है और डेनमार्क में भी गूंज रही है। सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास, फार्मेसी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। इस भूमिका में भारत ने मुश्किल समय में पूरी दुनिया का साथ दिया है। दुनिया के अनेक देशों को दवाइयां भेजी हैं ताकि हम संकट के समय मानवता के इस काम में पीछे न रह जाएं, दुनिया को संकट के समय मदद करें, ये सपना लेकर के काम करते रहे।
One of the defining features of Modi's visit to Europe so far has been his constant serial interaction with young children. You know, boys and girls, little toddlers, even some babies, they've all been interacting with Uncle Modi for the last 72 hours. Take a look.
A new resurgent India shining in all its glory. The diaspora, diverse, decadent and united by their love for India.
दुनिया का सबसे बेस्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर है, ऐसा लीडर दुनिया में कहीं भी नहीं है और मेरा हिसाब से कोई आएगी भी नहीं है। मुझे इतना उम्मीद है मोदी जी से और ये मेरे को इतना भरोसा है, इंडिया को वर्ल्ड में नंबर 1 मोदी जी ही करा के रखेंगे और कोई रास्ता ही नहीं है।
इट वाज अमेजिंग, थैंक यू सो मच मोदी जी यहाँ आने के लिए एंड वी आर रियली प्राउड टू बी इंडियन। हम कहीं भी रहे, जैसे कि आपने कहा, चारों और हर जगह इंडियंस है। थैंक यू सो मच, भारत माता की जय।
उन्होंने हमारे देश का नाम विदेश में भी बहुत ऊंचा किया है और मुझे लगता है कि हम लोग बहुत गर्व महसूस करते हैं कि हम उस देश से आते हैं कि प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी हैं।
इतना गर्व कभी पहले महसूस नहीं होता था जितना अब हो रहा है। हम लोग 18 साल से हैं हम यहाँ पे, लेकिन जो फीलिंग अभी आती है मोदी जी जब से सरकार में है, पहले नहीं था।
मतलब इट्स अ ड्रीम कम ट्रू टू सी मोदी इन पर्सन, मीट हिम।
ही इज वेरी इंस्पिरेशनल एंड मुझे इतने सब सुन के yes, I was like amazed कि इतना सब हुआ है इंडिया में literally.
Wherever the Prime Minister goes, Indian expats welcome him with open arms. But it is the children who attract the Prime Minister's attention the most. On his way to meetings with world leaders or crucial diplomatic events, Prime Minister always stops to interact with his youngest fans. This image is from Berlin, Germany, where kids too came out to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister. As the diaspora cheered for Narendra Modi, he entered, looked at a child who was being cradled in his mother's arms and went straight for him. He asked his name, but the child shied away. But the Prime Minister continued to play with the kid. He patted the child and then carried on. The Prime Minister makes it a point to interact with the future of India. The children wait for him, make presents for him, like this little girl who gifted a portrait of the Prime Minister. The message on the painting read, "Dear Prime Minister, welcome to Berlin." Narendra Modi took his time to appreciate the portrait and then asked a bystander to click his picture with the little girl.
क्या बनाया तुमने? अच्छा, क्या बनाया? कितना टाइम लगा? बनाने में 1 घंटा और बाकी के
The girl who presented the Prime Minister with his portrait is Manya Mishra.
कैसा रहा आपका एनकाउंटर आज तक पे? आपको पूरे देश में लोग देख रहे हैं इस वक्त आज तक पे, क्या बोलेंगे आप?
मैं बोलूंगी कि मेरे को आज बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है क्योंकि मैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर से मिली, मोदी जी से, और मैंने जब उनको ये पेंटिंग दिखाई उन्होंने बोला शाबाश, और उन्होंने मेरे को ये सिग्नेचर दिया अपना, और उन्होंने अपने सिग्नेचर के ऊपर वंदे मातरम भी लिखा है, इसलिए मैं बहुत खुश हूँ।
आपको तो वंदे मातरम भी लिखा हुआ मिला है, वंदे मातरम नरेंद्र मोदी ऑटोग्राफ मिला।
हाँ, और मैंने उन्हें बोला कि यू आर माई आइकॉन, और मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि आई एम प्राउड कि वो हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी हैं।
आपने बोला यू आर एन आइकॉन?
यस।
और उनका क्या रिस्पॉन्स था?
लाइक ही डिड लाइक दिस।
तो हाउ आर यू फीलिंग? अब आपके लिए कैसी खुशी है?
इट वाज लाइक माय ड्रीम केम ट्रू।
ये आपने खुद से बनाई है ना? तो ये कितने दिन में बनाई?
1 डे।
1 दिन में? मान्या मिश्रा, जय हिंद लिखा आपने? हाँ,
yes.
और फिर बना के और आज पीएम को दिखा दिया, तो मतलब जो काम जहाँ पहुँचना था वो हो गया।
yes.
अब फीलिंग रिलीव्ड? अभी भी धड़कन तेज है?
Yes.
I can say they're excited.
Yes.
So Manya is happy now.
Yes.
Since 2014, Prime Minister makes it a point to connect with the diaspora during his trips abroad, and children are very much part of his outreach. In Berlin, a boy even sang a patriotic song for the Prime Minister.
हे जन्मभूमि भारत, हे कर्मभूमि भारत, हे वंदनीय भारत, अभिनंदनीय भारत, जीवन सुमन चढ़ाकर आराधना करेंगे। यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत, अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य सदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्।
The Connect with Kids continued in Copenhagen, Denmark. These heartwarming images are now super viral, garnering millions of likes and views. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now this is truly a high-tech battlefield that's seeing the extensive use of combat drones to pick out targets. Both Ukraine and Russia have been using them, but what I'm about to show you is something where the technology has become more basic, but it's actually become more disturbing. We're talking about the next level of drone warfare that is so specific, so tiny, that it is simply impossible to defeat. Take a look at this new piece of footage that's been put out by the Ukrainian government that depicts what is believed to be a basic Chinese drone, the kind of drone that you can order online, rigged with an improvised explosive device like a grenade, watching over a car with Russian troops trying to make a getaway and dropping a grenade with pinpoint accuracy right onto that car and destroying it. This is a video that's just been tweeted by the Ukrainian Minister of Interior Affairs, and the implications of drone use for such small little targets, not big tanks, not big vehicles, but small little targets, little groups of soldiers and troops, has truly sent shockwaves all across. Because drones being used in this manner have been seen before by the ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Basic little drone, add a grenade and rig it in such a way that you can drop a single grenade on a vehicle or a group of people means there is really no escape. For over 2 months now, drones have done untold damage in the Russia-Ukraine battlefield. From smashing tanks, to destroying artillery, to even bombing patrol boats on the Black Sea. Drones armed with laser-guided missiles and suicide drones, where the drone itself is the missile, have defined a high-technology battlefield where few targets are beyond reach. And now, a newly revealed chapter of this escalating drone war in Ukraine. What you're about to watch is a piece of footage capturing the use of small drones and applied to cause devastating pinpointed damage. Watch now closely as this drone quietly films from the air as a group of Russian troops mobilize on an unspecified dirt road in Ukraine. Swooping up over them, the drone quietly drops an improvised grenade on the unsuspecting troops, injuring some and sending the rest running. In an eerie moment, the drone stops and zooms in on the injured soldiers. The drone lies in wait and then slowly moves to observe the Russian troops, including one of the injured men, getting into a pickup truck. With the target just sitting there, the drone then deploys a second grenade, sending it straight down through the sunroof of the vehicle. A precision strike smashing into the truck and exploding, sending the vehicle careening, the injuries to the men captured in zoom mode. What you've just witnessed is footage tweeted out by Ukraine's Interior Affairs Minister of what is possibly the lowest cost airstrike in existence. A method that's been used in the past by ISIS in Iraq and Syria, a method that's being tested by US Marines. And now using a definite degree of hardware improvisation, deployed to devastating micro effect by Ukraine against Russian troops. What Ukraine has demonstrated is the use of drones across the damage spectrum over 2 months. From the use of drones to distract and then facilitate the sinking of Russia's biggest ship in the Black Sea, to the bombing of fast-moving boats, to devastating tanks and armor, to now even picking out individual groups of troops. The gap for escape is rapidly closing and at nearly no cost. Bureau Report, India Today. And I want to take you straight to Ukraine, where this video has been shot. India Today's defense editor Abhishek Balla reporting from the country. Also from Ukraine's capital right now is Rajesh Pawar, who is a combat veteran. He's also been reporting for India Today. Rajesh, I want to come to you first because, we've seen the use of, combat drones right through this entire conflict so far. But this video that's been put out by the Minister of Interior Affairs of Ukraine depicts what we, saw for the last time perhaps somewhere in Iraq and Syria. ISIS has been doing this. We do know that this is a kind of technology that is under research in many countries, the ability to employ basic drones rigged with improvised explosive devices, to convert them into these very rudimentary but clearly very effective short-range bombers, which can drop grenades on small groups of troops or vehicles. And it appears from this video, Rajesh, that it has been, at least to a limited extent, successful.
Very true. And this video which we just saw of a basic drone being used to destroy a vehicle, this is the future of warfare. In the coming wars, we see the war will not be fought by tanks and guns so much. It will be more based on drones and technology. And a basic drone, if it can inflict this kind of damage on the equipment which costs much more, it's a very, very low cost option. And this is also, there's another frightening aspect to this kind of use of drones for military purpose is in the hand of terrorists. As you said, ISIS used it in Iraq and in Syria. And in coming days, we will see this, that even non-state actors, the terrorist groups, will be using these kind of low-cost equipment, low-cost drones to inflict heavy damage on expensive weaponry of the states. And in Ukraine war, Shiv, we have seen right from the beginning, be it Bayraktars, be it Switchblades, we have seen the amount of devastation they brought to Russian supply lines and armor when they were around Kiev and north of Ukraine, and they were forced to retreat. Also, we have seen the Bayraktars used for these Raptor-class speedboats, two of them which were destroyed a few days back in Black Sea near the Snake Island. So the drones all across, from these low-cost drones to high-cost, high state-of-art drones, we are seeing somehow they are changing the course of this battle, and they are proving to be a deciding factor in this war, be it from Russian side or be it from Ukrainian side.
And the scary part, like you rightly said, these are extremely low-cost weapons being used against much higher-cost things like vehicles and, of course, priceless human life. Abhishek, this is scary stuff because, according to some analysts and observers, a simple drone, which could be a Chinese drone or a, off-the-shelf drone rigged with a small release mechanism carrying a grenade, being able to view a target and then drop a grenade of this manner is an extremely high return on investment, if I can use that phrase, because such a weapon would cost maybe just a few $100s, but this video shows it can create real damage. It has probably killed and injured some of those Russian troops.
Shiv, it's getting quite evident now that the way this war is headed, drones are going to be a very dominant factor, if not the most dominant factor in this conflict. Ukraine has used a mix of highly sophisticated drones, where we've seen, recently they targeted even patrol boats of the Russian Navy. And now we are seeing very basic elementary drones also being used. And very specifically in the Donbas region, Shiv, which is a flat land, the terrain is such that, drones can be extremely effective in picking up even the slightest of military movement that the Russians are doing. And the Russians are getting quite desperate to move forward towards Kharkiv. I have been reporting from that area, and there is a pitched battle going on the border of Kharkiv and Donbass. And that's where these drones are going to be extremely effective. And that's the reason why that whatever aid is coming from US and other countries, Ukraine has been insisting that they want more of such drones. They've already got a lot of these drones from the US as part of the $800 million military package that was announced. And what I've picked up is that they are insisting on even the MQ-9 Reaper drones from the US. The Great Britain has announced that they will provide them with some drones. So it's very clear that moving forward, Ukraine is banking on this strategy of using drones.
Rajesh and Abhishek, thank you very much for joining me on that story. You know, this is the second drone special broadcast we've done just this week, which just shows you how fast the story is actually moving. Just a few days ago, we showed you how, as Rajesh had mentioned, Bayraktar drones, which are slightly, more advanced than the ones that we've shown you dropping those grenades. Bayraktar drones supplied by Turkey to the Ukrainian Navy have done something that has never been done before in the Ukrainian conflict, and that is actually bomb small Russian boats in the Black Sea. It's something that the Russians are still trying to digest. An armed Russian boat prowling the Black Sea off the southern coast of Ukraine. The boat has no idea it has been spotted from the skies. And then this happens. In the blink of an eye, the 55-foot Russian patrol boat obliterated over the waves. Minutes later, a second boat is seen speeding away, but it's too late. This boat too has no escape, because it's been struck from the skies by a relentless bombing machine. The Ukrainian government claims that these are images of two Russian Raptor-class high-speed coastal patrol boats, bombed into oblivion courtesy laser-guided bombs delivered by Ukrainian Bayraktar TB2 drones. The strikes on these two boats is enormously significant. They capture the first time in this war that these drones have actively engaged and destroyed Russian naval assets.
In over 2 months of the war, Ukrainian combat drones have got a lot of success by hitting their targets. But now, for the first time, they have achieved this success over an open ocean. Now, there are reports that Ukrainian combat drones have successfully hit Russian boats in the Black Sea.
The laser-guided munitions used in this new over-ocean attack are likely the Russian MAM, a smart micro-munition designed to hit both stationary and moving targets with devastating accuracy. The destruction of the two Russian Navy patrol boats will be a painful sting for Putin's war machine, coming 18 days after the sinking of the Black Sea Fleet's flagship cruiser Moskva, an incident that is still sending shockwaves around the world for what it means to Ukraine's defense capabilities. The two boats struck in this manner may be much smaller than the Moskva, but the signal from Ukraine is clear. No matter how small the Russian asset and no matter where it's operating, with the help of American and Western intelligence, electronics and targeting sensors, nothing will be out of reach for Ukrainian weapons. Bureau Report, India Today. Now, watching all this drone warfare happening in faraway Ukraine between those two countries, you're probably wondering, India's a much larger country. We have a large military. We've got a lot of enemies. We have troubled neighborhoods on our borders. Do we have combat drones as well? It's a bit of a mixed answer, I have to warn you. Watch this report.
With drone warfare proving its lethality and effects in a real conflict this year, you're probably wondering where India's armed drones are and whether there's a plan to deploy them in conflict theatres. Let's answer that question step by step. First up, the Israeli drones you see diving to attack Armenian assets in the 44-day war are called Harov. A loitering suicide drone that is also in service with the Indian Air Force. In fact, the Ladakh standoff has compelled India to place orders for more of this type of weapon. Second, the Indian Air Force is looking to weaponize its unarmed Israeli Heron surveillance drones. The Indian Armed Forces operate nearly 100 Herons, including in Ladakh amidst border tensions. Designated Project Cheetah and said to be worth over 3,000 crore, the Heron arming project will look to give the surveillance drone the ability to carry and fire spice-guided bombs similar to the kind used in the Balakot strikes and Spike anti-armor missiles. A modified version of an Indian air-to-ground strike weapon is also part of the plan. An interesting new Israeli weapon system that could be ordered soon is the Israeli Firefly loitering munition. A helicopter-style mini drone packing a sensor and warhead. Basically, used by infantry teams to hunt down, pinpoint and attack, kamikaze style. These devastating drones have recently been ordered by the Israeli Defense Forces as well, and could find place as a tactical killer drone system for the Indian infantry. Apart from the foreign drones, India is also developing and testing its own Predator-style drone called Rustam 2. This long-endurance surveillance drone took to the air for the first time in 2016 and has since conducted a series of test flights, proving out its flying qualities and ability to follow commands from the ground at great distance. At some point in the future, the Rustam 2 will be weaponized, as confirmed by this official slide from the program team from a decade ago, depicting the Rustam 2 firing a laser-guided weapon. But the actual act of weaponization can only take place once the drone itself is proven beyond all doubt. What we are trying to tell you is the Indian Armed Forces are fully in the picture on the effects of the drone warfare. And even if there have been delays and missteps along the way, armed drones will be deployed by India soon. Bureau Report, India Today.